News script, approximate 1,200 words. In a dramatic escalation that further widens the front lines of a regional confrontation, Yemen's Houthi movement, also known as Ansarallah, has claimed responsibility for a missile strike on Tel Aviv using what it described as hypersonic missiles. The group says the attack was retaliation for a recent strike on Hudaydah port, one of Yemen's most important humanitarian gateways, and warned that future assaults will target Israel's Haifa port if strikes on Yemeni infrastructure and leadership continue. According to Houthi statements released through official channels, the strike on Tel Aviv was carried out with a new class of high-speed weapons capable of penetrating advanced air defenses. While independent verification of both the weapon type and the extent of any damage remains limited, the announcement marks a notable development. An armed non-state actor in the Red Sea theater publicly claiming use of technology that, until recently, was largely associated with state-level militaries. The timing is crucial. The Houthis have steadily expanded their campaign beyond Yemen's borders in recent years, increasingly striking maritime traffic in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden and targeting facilities and shipping perceived as linked to Israel or its partners. Their operations have already prompted international concern over the safety of one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, and this reported strike on Tel Aviv, the heart of Israel's civilian and commercial life, escalates the stakes considerably. Tel Aviv's authorities have not yet provided a full public accounting of the incident. Israeli security sources typically move cautiously in the immediate aftermath of such developments, balancing operational security with the need to inform the public. At the same time, Israel has a long history of treating threats emanating from Iran-aligned groups, including the Houthis, who are widely seen as Tehran's local proxy, as matters of national security. Any confirmed successful strike on Israeli territory would likely prompt a strong political and military response. Houthi spokesman framed the attack as a measured response to the targeting of Hudaydah port, which the movement argues is essential for delivering humanitarian aid to millions of Yemenis. Hudaydah has been a focal point in Yemen's long-running conflict. Its targeting, whether deliberate or collateral, consistently draws accusations that external actors are compounding Yemen's already catastrophic humanitarian crisis. The Houthis say they struck Tel Aviv to demonstrate that their reach now extends to Israel and to deter further attacks on Yemeni infrastructure and leaders. International reactions were swift and, in many cases, sharply critical. Western capitals condemned any missile strike on civilian areas, emphasized Israel's right to defend itself, and urged immediate de-escalation to prevent a broader conflagration. Regional governments expressed alarm at the prospect of a widening conflict that could draw in multiple states and non-state forces across the Middle East. At the same time, some countries urged restraint by all parties and reminded actors of the need to safeguard commercial shipping and civilian populations. Maritime and trade experts warned of the broader implications for global commerce. The Red Sea and Suez Canal route remain vital for energy and container flows between Asia and Europe. Several shipping firms have already rerouted vessels in recent months to avoid Houthi-affected waters, incurring higher costs and longer transit times. An expansion of Houthi capabilities or a pattern of successful long-range strikes against ports in the eastern Mediterranean would further destabilize trade corridors and increase pressure on global supply chains. Analysts offered differing interpretations of the Houthis' claimed use of hypersonic missiles. Some experts treat the declaration with skepticism, noting the technical difficulty of developing and deploying genuine hypersonic systems. Others argue that even the claim, regardless of technical accuracy, is significant, because it signals either a real upgrade in capability, external assistance, or a deliberate psychological operation designed to magnify perceived strength and deter further attacks on Yemen. There are also important legal and humanitarian angles. Targeting commercial ports and civilian infrastructure carries grave risks under international humanitarian law, especially when attacks could affect innocent maritime crews or civilians in port cities. Humanitarian organizations immediately warned that any escalation jeopardizes aid deliveries to already vulnerable populations in Yemen, Gaza, and beyond, and stressed that civilians must be protected. The prospect of Haifa, a key Israeli port handling both civilian goods and some strategic supplies, being threatened raises acute concerns about civilian displacement, port closures, and interruption of critical imports. The strike, or the claim of it, will complicate the diplomatic picture. Israel has strong security relationships with the United States and several Western and regional partners, and any attack attributed to a Tehran-aligned proxy risks drawing those partners into supportive or retaliatory roles. Washington, which has repeatedly pledged to ensure freedom of navigation in key maritime routes, may face renewed pressure to lead international efforts to secure shipping lanes and deter further Houthi attacks. Conversely, Russia, China, and other global players may use the crisis to press for negotiations or to expand influence in the region's fractious security environment. For Yemen, the humanitarian narrative cannot be ignored. Many Yemenis view Hudaydah as a lifeline. Damage to the port exacerbates famine risk and undermines the flow of medicine and food. The Houthis assert that their strikes are retaliatory and defensive. Their critics call such attacks irresponsible and dangerous, especially when they risk drawing Yemen deeper into an international confrontation that the country's population cannot afford. Military planners on all sides now confront difficult choices. Israel must weigh options ranging from localized strikes on Houthi launch sites and supply lines to diplomatic pressure on states accused of supporting the rebels. Any military response could prompt further Houthi retaliation, potentially expanding attacks on maritime and port infrastructure. For the Houthis, a continued campaign of long-range strikes risks inviting countermeasures that could degrade their own coastal and logistical capabilities. The next steps will be telling. International naval patrols and insurance firms will closely monitor shipping in the Red Sea and Eastern Mediterranean. Diplomatic backchannels may intensify as states seek to avoid direct interstate war while preventing the conflict from spreading. Humanitarian agencies will press for protections and continued access to Yemen, stressing that civilians must not be used as leverage. In the immediate term, the world is likely to see a predictable pattern: condemnation, urgent diplomatic activity, shipping disruptions, and the possibility of tit-for-tat strikes. But beneath these short-term reactions lies a deeper strategic shift, a widening of the conflict's geography and actors, and the emergence of new technologies and tactics that complicate traditional deterrence models. As events unfold, independent verification will be essential. Claims about weapon types, damage assessments, and casualties must be corroborated by reliable sources before hard conclusions are drawn. Equally critical will be the international community's ability to respond in ways that protect civilians, maintain maritime commerce, and reduce the risk of a broader war that would have devastating regional and global consequences. For now, the Houthi announcement has put a fresh spotlight on the vulnerabilities of maritime and urban centers in an increasingly connected and contested Middle East. The threat to Haifa port, if acted upon, would mark a further dangerous escalation. Diplomats, military planners, and humanitarian actors alike will hope that cooler heads prevail and that steps toward de-escalation can be found before the situation slips beyond the reach of containment.